Welcome everyone, it's Shari Carroll for SimonsStamp.com, and I have another art journal feature where I'm using some 49 and Market products. To recap, all this year I've been creating each journal page using different techniques and styles, and to cut these out I'm using the Simons Stamp nested dies, and this is the 4-inch circle. So when I have them all complete, I can hook them all together using the Simons Stamp ring clip. The paper I'm using for the background is the 49 and Market, and this is called Willow Color Swatch, and it has really beautiful papers. Even the front sheet has some printed paper on the back. So I'm going to flip through this, and you can see all these really beautifully distressed butterflies and leaves, and even some flowers. And there's 3 sheets total of each design, and I thought it was really a great background to get started. So I've chosen a really light piece, and I have my 4-inch die. Next thing I need to do is figure out where I want to die cut. I haven't used rub-ons in a really long time, so I found these 49 and Market. These are the Front Porch series, and these are the Botanical rub-ons. I was really taken with the trees on this because they're so detailed, and they're perfect for a background surface. As you can see, there's quite a few sizes to choose from, so I'm going to use this bottom right one, and I'm going to slide my disc right underneath to where I can start to line up exactly where I want that rub-on to hit. I'm going to capture all of the designs that will fit onto this disc just as they are on the rub-on sheet. And to do that, I'm going to use my Teflon bone folder since the edges are rounded and the bone folder is really strong so it can handle a lot of pressure. Once I have most of the design burnished onto my paper, I'm going to peel away that top tree just a little bit, and then I'm going to trim this down with my scissors. And now I can finish burnishing, and I'll make sure I get around those edges really well to make sure that the rub-ons are really well connected. And next I'm going to trim off around the edge of my disc, and I'm going to cut off the rest of the rub-on area before I peel away the top sheet of the rub-on. This transfers really beautifully. I'm going to show you up close. You can't tell the difference between the paper and the rub-on. It's a really nice matte finish, and it looks like it's part of that paper. Next, I'm going to be stamping onto my disc, and I'm using the Create stamp set since it has some large prompts and smaller subtext. I'm using Archival ink since I do have different surfaces to stamp on, and I've placed my stamp onto my disc and now onto my MISTI door. Here's a quick tip for you. If you're stamping in a regular shape, I am using my stamp and stencil mat in my MISTI just in case I need to line it up, and it will stay in place. And right now I'm pushing that down. It is such a fine detailed message that I'm going to go ahead and ink this up a second time so I get a really great bold message. Next, I'm using my leftover paper from my background disc, and I'm going to be embossing on this, so I'm using the Simons Stamp brush powder tool just to rub over the top of that surface. This is an anti-static powder, so it will resist any of the embossing powder so it won't stick to the background. To stamp this image, I'm going to be using the Clair black ink. It's a really nice strong black ink, and you can do some embossing. So once I get that inked up, I can press it onto my paper. And I like to stamp it again just to make sure I have a really strong image. And I'll remove the wet ink with the Simons Stamp microfiber cloth before I return the stamp to the package. I'm using the Simons Stamp clear detail powder to emboss this. This will give me a really permanent image with a spot of shine. So once I've covered that with the embossing powder, next I can heat up my heat gun and move it over the paper until the powder is completely melted. I'm using the Coordinating Create dies. It has dies for the larger and smaller messages, and they fit nice and snugly around each of your messages. So just tack that down with some low tack tape before die cutting. I'm ready to add my die cut message to my piece, and I have used some of the 3D foam strips, and this is really perfect for a skinny long message and sentiment strips. So once I have that aligned, I can press it down in place. 49 and Market also has these Willlow laser cut pieces. They're really tiny and they're cut without any borders around each of the images. You can see by the back that they are all laser cut and they are just really beautiful and they go really well with the papers and rub-ons. So to adhere my two butterflies, I'm using my foam strip and I'm just going to cut this leftover piece in half and it'll fit on each of my little butterflies. So I'm just going to run that across the back and then I can put that in place on my page and add my second one for a little bit of balance. Here's how this is turning out so far. I do have a little bit of dimension. I have the words that I want to say for this page and that beautiful tree. To create a hanger for this, I have one of the laser cut, and this is a ticket piece, and I'm just scoring this in half, and I'm using the new scoreboard from Simon Says Stamp. I love the small size. So I'll fold that in half, and then I can use some Simon Says Stamp glue, and I'll just add a little bit of glue to each side of that fold. And then I can slide it onto the front and the back of my disc. And using the grid marks on my glass mat, I can make sure that I have everything straight and make adjustments before that glue dries. And for a little bit of detail, a couple of tiny attacher staples at the top. Next, I can add a hole at the top of my ticket using my really old crocodile. Now that I have all the structural parts of my page done, I'm going to start adding some little details. And I found these Jade enamel dots from Altenew, and I thought the colors matched my background really perfectly. So I like to balance things out by placing 3 different arrangements at the top, center, and also the right. So I've placed a few large ones. Now I'll fill in with some smaller ones. And now for the finishing touch, I'm using the Tim Holtz Distress Spritz, and this is peeled paint. I've shaken this up really well, and I'm going to remove the lid to use the tip of the applicator, and I can just randomly tap onto that lid and get some splatters on my project. So once this dries, it'll have a really nice glittery shine. And if you get any in any crucial areas, like I got some of the bottom of the H in happiness, I just can blot that away with a paper towel or a baby wipe. I think this is one of my favorite pieces so far. I really love the green, as you can tell by my background images. I do have all my supplies listed in the description box below, and also a link to our blog post where you can get more information about my journals and this page. And as always, thanks so much for watching.
Hi there, I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at SimonsSaysStamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.